What's going on, guys? Kim Becker and Arif Dean here for your weekly Colorado Avalanche AMA brought to you by Mile High Sports. Make sure that you are following Arif and Mile High Sports on Twitter. He will send out this tweet weekly asking what questions you may have that you want answered right here on our weekly AMA. So without further ado, Arif, let's chat about the game that happened last night on Monday night. Cale Makar, kind of an interesting situation here. I thought it was awesome. You got to hear from him right after the game. Hear from what he said about that situation. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit for everybody that might not know what went on?
Yeah, so Cale Makar was skating around the goal yesterday in the first period. Late in the first, he was skating around Georgie, kind of, starting his Cale Makar breakout. And Matt Barzal was trailing behind him and, tried to impede on him a little bit on his speed by kind of tapping him in the shoulder a couple times with his stick, which is a very normal defenseman trailing, player kind of play. And then Cale Makar slips and falls, and the referee that was behind the play, kind of behind the net, didn't get a great, view of it, but kind of saw Makar go down after a stick tap. Right away throws his hand up in the air to call a tripping penalty on Matt Barzal. The play gets whistled dead about 5 or 6 seconds later because the Islanders touched the puck, and we noticed clear as day from the press box, Cale Makar gives a wave right away to the ref, kind of like a shakes it off kind of thing. And before realizing what happened, I couldn't tell if he was like, I don't know, trash talking Barzal, like goodbye, bye to the penalty box.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of was like telling Georgiev, who was on his way to the bench for the delayed call, kind of like, don't worry about the delay. Let's just blow the whistle dead and get a power play. Like, I couldn't figure out what it was.
Okay.
And then the referees convene at center ice. And then the referee turns on his mic and says, there's no penalty on the play. And then we kind of put two and two together and realized that, and I think the altitude feed had this, but again, we're in the press box. We're not hearing what Mark Mosier and the guys are saying, but Cale Makar got tripped up and then told the referee, don't call a penalty. I slipped. It was not a penalty. So it was really fascinating. It's something that we have seen in the NHL before. Alex Ovechkin did it last year. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it before that. And it's still unprecedented, even if if somebody did it a year ago. Then the theory started to rise. Was Cale Makar trying to tell the referee, like, no penalty, don't call me for embellishment either, because maybe he thought he was going to get called for a dive also, and both guys were going to go, and he turned that down. I asked him that, and he said, no, I didn't think that was the case. We also thought maybe he was, like, trying to not get that call, because then there's going to be a makeup call when the refs realize that they did a bad job on that call, and that wasn't the case either. It was literally a case where a guy tripped by himself and got up, and his instincts in the moment said, that's not a good call. I don't deserve that power play, and literally waved his hand over to the official saying, don't make that call. That was not a penalty.
And then afterwards, I read in your article, he said, yeah, I felt like I was going to, have that guiltiness if I hadn't said anything, but it's probably not something I would do again, right?
Yeah. It was such a fascinating media scrum because, look, the Avalanche, they won 1-0 in the shootout where literally one guy scored, and it was Evan Rodriguez. If you win 1-0 in the shootout, that obviously means your goalie had a shutout with Alexander Georgiev.
Right.
When we went into the media room or into the locker room, a couple guys went to talk to Georgie. One guy went to talk to Rodriguez, and like 6 of us bull rushed Cale Makar to figure out what the heck happened. And, that's where this tweet kind of comes to light. Is he was asked right away, did you negate a power play? Like, did you decline a power play? And he confirmed it. He told the ref it wasn't a penalty, says he felt guilty for doing it, but also would have felt guilty for letting it slide. Yeah. He also did mention he apologized for his teammates and, quote, I don't plan to do that ever again. It was such a fascinating call because it was one of those things where the media scrum was so fascinating, I should say, because it was one of those things where you can tell he was like guilty for doing it and apologized to his teammates. I asked him if, Jared Bednar, any of his teammates gave him like a talking to, like, what the hell, dude? And he said no. We asked Jared afterward if he felt that he would rather Cale not do that, and he said he doesn't mind it, he doesn't care. But again, like it's a game in mid-December against an Eastern Conference team.
Well, and I was gonna say, if the result would have been different, it may have been a different story.
Maybe if the result was different, and even then, I think Jared would have talked it back a little bit, just because it's mid-December. Sure.
Yeah.
If it was a playoff game or something that matters later, but I don't think at that point Cale Makar is thinking the same type of thing he's thinking today in December, where it's a little bit of a snooze fest part of the season. the
But
game's
also you
25 to
see
50.
Right. And you see so many games where calls are made that shouldn't be. And then afterwards, for days on end, the media is talking about how that was a terrible call, how that may have changed the result of the game had it actually been taken back or whatever. So at the end of the day, I mean, these guys are out there to play a fair game, right? I mean, I know it's still hockey. There's of course going to be some dirty plays, some whatever, but it's still supposed to be a fair game and who's the better team. So I have no problem with this. If I if I was an NHL head coach,
Yeah,
I would kill it. It's fine. If
it
that's
was
how
actually
you feel.
funny. Kale twice mentioned something along the line of he said the first time was like, I saved the referee here, and the second time he mentioned like, I saved the referee from like media scrutiny. He kind of kept saying like, the referee made a crap call, the referee made a bad call, like I saved him. It was kind of like a low-key jab at the officials for even calling that.
Yeah.
But the way that I see it, look, I don't think it's ever going to happen again. Kale said that multiple times. I don't think I'll ever do it again. I don't think I'll ever do it. I apologize to my teammates, blah, blah, blah. But the biggest thing here for me is the best way to kind of judge a person's character is his instinctual reactions in a situation.
Yes.
If your instinct to something going wrong is blowing a fuse and losing your mind, that says a lot about your character. If your instinct is that, it also says a lot about your character. So shout out to Cale Makar, the ultimate sportsman and good-mannered boy in the NHL. And somewhere, I don't know if you have, but I have, Gary Makar, Cale's dad, is just the most delightful of humans ever. Somewhere Gary is sitting in Calgary going, way to go, Cale. That's how I raised you. Like, there was something there, but just all around, just such a fascinating turn of events.
Which is so funny that we sit here and say it's a fascinating turn of events that one of the players told the refs what actually happened.
Because
like, oh my gosh.
Look,
I know, how many times does this happen and doesn't? But
yeah, but we have seen that before. We have seen bad calls where the official realizes it, the guy that drew the penalty realizes it, and then there's that idea in mind of like, yeah, we'll just call a makeup call later on.
Mm-hmm.
He stopped it dead in his tracks. Like the Avalanche have a good power play, and they've been in a little bit of a rut, but they're playing well lately. They're generating a lot of opportunities. Kale could have easily just been like, all right, let's get our power play goal. When the makeup call happens, we'll kill it.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. Like it was so cool. It was so different.
So cool. It's awesome.
It gave us something to talk about in a 0-0 game.
Oh, well, I know. And we'll get to that too. There's actually a question sent in that kind of relates to that comment right there. So we'll definitely get to that one here in a second, but let's roll on through these questions. We want to thank you guys, of course, for sending them in. And I know it took us a little time to get there, but like I said, a fascinating situation, like Arif said last night with Kale. So we wanted to chat about that first, but yes, make sure that you are sending in your Avs questions to Arif Weekly, and we'll get rolling on the first one right here. Do you think that it is realistic to believe that Rantanen can hit 50 goals this season, Arif?
Short answer, yeah. His career high, I think, is 36. He had it a year ago, and he's already at 21.
Nice.
We are 30 games into the NHL season. He's going to lose a lot of offense once McKinnon and Landeskog are back, but not that much. I think scoring 29 goals in 52 games if he plays all 82, which nobody plays 82 on this team, but 29 and 52 is not a tough number to reach for somebody like Mikko and somebody of his skill setting and scoring prowess. So I genuinely think he can get there. It might come down to the wire where at the end he's trying hard to bury a few more to get to that number. If the Avalanche have a playoff spot locked up by then, it might be a situation where he might sit out a couple games. So we'll see how it goes. 30 goals in 52 games, by the way. Couple seasons ago, the 2021 season that was shortened because of COVID, the Avalanche had a 56-game schedule. Mikko Rantanen played 52 games and scored exactly 30 goals. So if he does that again, he's up to 51. So he just needs 29 in those 52 games to get there.
Okay, there you go. Short answer, yes, and some cool stats there. Thank you for that one. Arif, we'll roll right through here. Do you think that Malgin will play a fourth-line C role or just fill in another bottom six spot?
Yeah, so this is referring to Dennis Malgin. The Avalanche yesterday traded Dryden Hunt for him from the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think he's just going to kind of scatter around the bottom six, probably as a centerman to start, because right now you had Curtis McDermott do that last game, and that's just not a fourth line center for this team. So until Darren Helm comes back, we'll see him there. And then after that, we'll probably see him kind of scattered around the bottom six because Jacob McDonald's not going to play ahead of Malgin. That trade to me is a simple case of two teams had players that they were going to put on waivers and decided why not lose them for each other's guy rather than lose them for nothing. So I think he's just going to fill in around the bottom six. there is a chance that one of these teams, and I'm not going to say the Avalanche, but there's a chance that one of these teams ends up finding kind of a little bit of a gold mine. A couple years ago, the Avalanche traded their problem and issue in Chris Bigra, a player that wasn't really developing as they wanted, to the New York Rangers for their issue and problem of a player that wasn't developing in Ryan Graves. Chris Bigra went on to be an AHLer. Ryan Graves went on to be an NHLer who is now on the Devils, who is making $3 million a year. So sometimes you find something in these little minor league trades, or not minor league, but like minor trades, I should say. That might happen with one of these teams. That might happen with Malgin. But for right now, I think he will start as that fourth line center role. And as Darren Helm and other guys get healthy, he might just kind of jump in and around the lineup.
Cool. Love that. All righty. We've got another question from the same. What are the differences in Malgin's skill set compared to Dryden Hunt, and why is he a better fit for the Avs?
Dryden Hunt is going to give you a more defensive style game. He's a guy that was a big goal scorer in the WHL and in the AHL. He had some good numbers, but he's also 27 years old. He's a couple years older than Malgin. He's going to give you a defensive shutdown style of game. That's what he does. The thing is with the Avalanche is when healthy, they have a lot of those. Logan O'Connor, Darren Helm, Andrew Cogliano. They're probably going to shore up their depth a little bit at the deadline.
Right.
Dennis Malgin, on the other hand, again, more likely than not, is not going to really amount to much. 2 goals, 2 assists in 23 games, I want to say, with the Maple Leafs this year. Mind you, a lot of that is playing in their top 6. He spent a lot of time playing on line with John Tavares and Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner just had a 23-game point streak. Malgin has 4 points in 23 games. So there's something wrong there, obviously. So he's probably not going to amount to much, but the difference between the two is Dennis Malgin is more of an offensive kind of player. So for a team that has had a lot of games where Martin Kaut has been in the top 6, Alex Newhook, even Charles Hudon at times, it's good to give another guy a chance and, give him a crack and see what happens. The other thing with Dennis Malgin is he's a really, really fast player, and he's got a lot of speed, and the Avalanche like speed. So practice is going to start here at Ball Arena very shortly, or not at Ball Arena, at Family Sports, and we'll kind of see where he fits in.
Okay.
But the way that I see it is, Hunt's not working for us. Malgin's not working for you. Let's trade them for each other and see what happens.
There you go.
All the while knowing that, Dennis Malgin might give you an offensive punch that Hunt couldn't. And the keyword is might, probably not, but we'll see.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, you kept it simple there, Yeah. If it's not working, let's fix it. And this is one way to kind of get that done. So I like that a lot. All right, we're going to move on to the question that I kind of alluded to earlier here. What's a more entertaining game, Arif? A goaltending duel where no goals are scored, or a high-scoring affair? I have my opinions on this one, but what's yours?
High-scoring games are always fun, even if they're kind of dull and boring, because goals are fun. Goals give you an energy burst. They kind of there's an electricity in the arena when a goal is scored. Even if it's a road team, there's a few fans in there that are cheering, the players on the bench. So high-scoring games are always entertaining, in my opinion. Even if it's just poor goaltending and they're weird. Like, there was that Seattle-LA game of about a month ago now that was 9-8. Goalies were terrible. It wasn't an offensive powerhouse of a game. It was just everything was going in, but that made it exciting. So high-scoring games are always entertaining. 0-0 games, low-scoring games like this are not always entertaining. You need to have good opportunities, good plays, and then respect the fact that a good save can also be exciting. And that's exactly what the Avalanche Islanders game was. Okay. It was not a boring 0-0 game. It was not a defensive shutdown. A lot of play at center ice, neutral zone, skating back and forth, shutdown type of game. It was a game where both teams had a ton of great opportunities. But nobody could solve the goaltending at the other end. And right down to overtime. Overtime started a little bit of a dud, but Cale Makar had that chance kind of late in OT to get the winner, and he was stopped by Sorokin, as were 45 other shots on Sorokin. George, you only faced 26 because the Avalanche have played a better defensively responsible game lately, but he still made some strong saves. So high-scoring games, always entertaining. 0-0 games, not always entertaining, but that Avalanche Islanders game was absolutely entertaining.
I actually really like shutout games because there's always an intensity of thinking this could change at any moment, and then your team could either be on the forefront of that or on the back, So I actually really like shutout games, especially in the third period when it could be headed to overtime, because it's just like it could change in any moment. So
one goal can open a floodgates. I mean,
exactly.
I
like
a lot
those.
of our followers probably watched the World Cup. One goal suddenly turned into 4, and it was
Right?
a 3-3 game, like at the blink of an eye.
All it
So
takes is one. All it takes is
yeah.
one play, one
So
move.
there
But
is that intensity of every opportunity is kind of like a chess match. Is the
matters.
goalie
Yes.
going to make another save, or are
Yep.
we going to explode here because 54 minutes of 0 goals and suddenly the home team scored? Like,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of fun in those kinds of games, as long as, again, teams are getting their chances, which
Sure.
they were yesterday.
Love it. Okay, cool. We've got a couple more here before we wrap up. This one is from Zach. Where is the tipping point when regular season struggles begin to seriously impact postseason chances? And are the Avs already over that tipping point?
I wouldn't go as that far as saying that that's where they're at. It's a good question, but it was probably a good question before the Avalanche went on a 4-1-1 stretch. They're on pace for 98, 99 points. If they win their next game, they'll be on pace for more than 100. This team is doing just fine. Their division isn't that far ahead. Heck, the leaders of the division, I believe, are the Dallas Stars, and the Stars have played 4 more games than the Avalanche. So the Avalanche have 4 games in hand on Dallas, and they are at 44 points. The Avalanche are at 36. Sorry, 3 more games in hand, and they're 8 points ahead. Okay. So technically, if the Avalanche win their 3 games in hand, which they might not, but if the Avalanche win their 3 games in hand, they're 2 points back at the division leader. Right. So they're doing just fine. Nobody in their division is running away like the Golden Knights in the Pacific or like the Boston Bruins in the Atlantic, where you're kind of fighting for second place. This is a team that in 3 weeks from now, a month from now, could be right back in first place in the Central Division, maybe even in the Western Conference. And you're sitting there being like, wow, November and December were weird because here we are right back to where we thought we would be.
Okay. All right. We like that. Let's wrap this one up with a more of a long-term prediction here. Do you have any predictions of how the Metro shakes out at the end of this regular season at this point, Arif?
I like this question because the Metropolitan Division is kind of fascinating at this point. In the Atlantic, we know the good teams. It's Boston, Toronto, and Tampa, and Boston is absolutely running away with that division right now. But in the Metro, the New York Rangers have suddenly won 7 straight games. They've even beaten the Avalanche. The Carolina Hurricanes are 9-0-1 in their last 10 with a 5-game winning streak. The Devils are on a 3-game losing streak. They've fallen back toward the rest of the division. And then the Pittsburgh Penguins, 7 wins in their last 10, are right there as well. The New York Islanders obviously just lost to the Avalanche, only 3 wins in their last 10. So they've fallen, but the Capitals have risen with 7 wins in their last 10. Basically, it's anybody's game. The Devils are at 44 points. The Capitals are at 38 points. The Islanders 38. So that's your separation among these top 6 teams is only 6 points. Granted, yes, the Devils do have games in hand, but it's anybody's game, and any one of these teams. The reason why the Metropolitan is fascinating to me is because you have 6 teams in that division, and any one of them could go on a run. Are the Capitals going to make the Cup final? Probably not. The Islanders, they went on a couple runs 2 years in a row, 1 year removed from that. The Pittsburgh Penguins can, anytime Sidney Crosby could lead them to the Cup final. The Rangers were 2 games away last year. The Hurricanes have been to the Eastern Conference final and have been games away. The New Jersey Devils are an up-and-coming team that everything is clicking. So if I had to predict, I would say Carolina ends up winning the division. But, I think Carolina won the division last year, and the New York Rangers ended up being the team that made it to the Eastern Conference final. So that is a fascinating division because of the 4 divisions in the NHL, that's the one where it looks like more than 3 teams or more than 4 teams could be your Stanley Cup finalist or even your conference finalist.
Very exciting. Okay, thanks, Arif. Well, we appreciate all of you sending in your questions to this weekly AMA that we have right here on Mile High Sports. Arif, thank you so much. I will see you right back here next week. I know today's Tuesday. Normally we do this on Monday, so I think I'll see you probably next Monday. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And be sure to send in your questions, like we said, when Arif sends out that tweet so that we can answer them right here on our weekly AMA. Arif, I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.